Welcome to the Sports Ethicist Show, coming to you from the basement of Burpee on the campus of Rockford College in Sportstown, USA, Rockford, Illinois. I am Shawn Klein, the sports ethicist and philosophy professor here at Rockford College. The Sports Ethicist Show discusses the many ethical and philosophic issues that arise in and around sport. You can read the Sports Ethicist blog at sportsethicist.com, as well as like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Joining me today again is Mike Perry, English professor at Rockford College. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Shawn. Thanks for having me again.
On our last show, we discussed what is sport, or what are sports. And so I thought we could follow that up today with a discussion of why sport. Why do we play sports? Why watch sports? Why study sports? Because both of us teach courses in sports. So you played sports growing up in high school, right?
Yes, I did.
So what'd you play?
I did baseball, played some basketball early on, like freshman, and then cross country, swimming.
Okay. Swimming. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, one year.
1 year.
Best shape I was ever in, and then never again.
Never again. Why not?
It was a mixture of things, I guess, at the time. But
you don't want to get into it?
Not really.
They kicked you off the team, didn't they?
No.
I'm kidding. All right. So why? Why did you play the sports that you did? What brought you to those?
I enjoyed them.
So it was fun.
I grew up playing sports in our neighborhood, and that's where I learned most of my sports is playing baseball and football in the back lot behind my house, playing basketball in the driveway out front.
Right. Yeah. And pickup games.
No parents ever around. Just you go out there and you play with the big guys. Right.
Get pushed around a little bit. Yeah. And I played some sports as well. I started off, at a young age. You played Little League, and I don't know if you played soccer. We had a little
did soccer 1 year. I did not like it. I got kicked in the shins.
Shin. Yeah, I got kicked in the shin. Didn't really care for that part
back then. So
yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe we weren't wearing them, but yeah. And so I played those. I wasn't very good, and as is often the case, if you're not very good at something, you're usually not very interested in it. So I lost interest, but then by time high school came around, I started playing some high school sports. I played a little football, lacrosse, volleyball, but although not, they were fun, and I liked them. I mean, it's not that I wasn't...
played a lot of football, never for the school.
Never for the school.
A lot of weekend football, pickup football.
Right, backyard.
Tackle football, no pads.
Right.
Insane when you look back on it.
No helmet, hitting rocks on the ground.
Yep.
Right. Well, so so your boys are old enough. Why do they play some sports and those kind of activities? What are the reasons that they play?
I'm not sure I really know.
Well,
I'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a big part of it's because I encourage it. When they're younger, because that's something they play, but they look out. Neither of them follow professional sports so much. My younger guy's doing it a little bit more, but it's a hard question.
My boy's a little too young at this point. He sees tennis on the TV and goes, "Dad, football." So he's not quite there yet, but because if Dad's watching TV and it's sports, it must be football, but it's not always. But so I imagine he'll get there at some point. And so I thought one thing that might focus our conversation about why people play sports is looking at this survey that I found online. It's a youth sports players survey of 4th to 8th graders. I found this on a website called sportsreasons.com. I don't really know much about it. I don't know how valid or scientific the survey is, but I thought it would be an interesting point of discussion. And the survey asks, what are your reasons for playing youth sports? And so this survey focused on, I guess, Darien, Michigan, I think. The youth athletes from baseball, football, and baseball, football, and basketball, and talked to the kids and asked them why they played sports and gave them a list of options. And so Mike and I both did this list, and so I'll read off the topics. And I'm going to post a link on sportsethicist.com to the survey. You can take a look at it yourself. But here are the options that they gave students. To stay in shape and get exercise, to improve my skills and learn to play the right way, to have fun, to be a part of a team and to learn teamwork, to go to a higher level of competition, such as high school sports, to earn a college scholarship, to increase my self-confidence, to win, to make friends, for the excitement and challenge of competition, because my parents asked me to play. So what Mike and I did was just did our own ranking of, one being the thing that we remember as kids, what was most important to us about why we play. So Mike, maybe you could give us the top few.
Yeah, I guess to have fun, to make friends, and for the excitement and challenge of competition were my top three.
My top three, I had to make friends was number one, to be part of a team and to learn teamwork, and for the excitement and challenge of competition. And then 4, I had as to have fun. So that, and now the survey itself,
I put teamwork down at 8. I don't know
down
what
at 8, huh?
Me.
Well, I the reason why I had that up there is not so much to learn teamwork. It wasn't like I was like, I need to know how to play well in teams and play well with others, although my parents probably thought I needed to learn that. But it was not so much it was to be a part of a team, the camaraderie, the being with my other friends. So that's why they kind of, to make friends and to be part of a team kind of go together in my memory, because a lot of the reasons why, for instance, I played the sports I played in high school, football and lacrosse and volleyball, those are the sports that my friends were playing. It wasn't that I had some intrinsic desire to play them. It's what they were playing. This is a way to be with them. So it wasn't just merely a, jumping off the cliff because all my friends are jumping off the cliff type thing, right? But it was, this is a way to be with them and to hang out with them and to make new friends as well. So that's why I put that there, to be part of a team, that aspect of it. The teamwork part, I don't know if I ever really learned that.
Yeah, I was just thinking from a kid's perspective, that wouldn't have been something I consciously thought of, but would be something that certainly happened,
Yeah, I think you do learn some of those teamwork and that kind of attitude. Now, what's interesting is that the number one answer for in this survey was to have fun. And I think that's heartening. I like to hear that. I mean, that seems to be a good reason to be playing the sports. You hope that it's about that. Now, what's interesting is, for me at least, is that I have mine at 4, which is not low. It's not at the bottom of the list. Why do you think I have that low, a little bit lower down? I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
You just don't like to have fun, I guess. I don't know. I wonder if that means that you play it for reasons you don't necessarily enjoy it, but you play it for the reasons of making friends. I'm here. I'm psychoanalyzing you.
Right. Well, let me ask you.
You're not as competitive, but you are competitive.
Yeah, you've played racquetball with me. You know I'm competitive. I guess what I might ask is, was playing always fun? Did you always have a good time?
Yeah, and if I didn't, I wouldn't play.
Okay.
On some level, I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, my experience might be more idiosyncratic then, or more unique, but there was a lot about the playing of at least more organized sports that I didn't like, I didn't enjoy.
The practicing often was not fun.
No, I didn't
Hence
like
1 year of swimming.
Yeah.
Because it was before school and after school.
Yeah, practicing in the rain and the cold. I remember football practices in the rain, in the cold, in the summer heat. That part was not fun. And then even playing the game sometimes was more about just getting through the game than just, wow, this is a lot of fun. Now, I don't want to overplay that and be like I didn't enjoy it, because overall the process I enjoyed. But I think in some ways what I enjoyed, and I wonder if maybe if this is something that will resonate with you, is that the feeling of efficacy. And now, obviously, this isn't the 12-year-old thinking, right? I'm looking back and trying to figure out
what?
Effica what? The feeling of efficacy of working hard at something and accomplishing it, even if accomplishing it was just getting through the game in one piece, in the case of football. But going through the practice, going through the hitting drill, actually going through and getting hit by guys that were twice the size of me, and being able to get up. And so while that wasn't a feeling of pleasure or joy, there was a feeling of satisfaction, of efficacy, of having worked hard at something and completed it. And that, I think, looking back, is what I think I enjoyed, not so much the game itself per se.
Yeah, and I think that can be a type of fun. I don't equate fun with enjoyment and pleasure.
Okay.
Fun for me means so many different things. That was fun to work my, tail off.
Right. No, and that's but that's I think oftentimes if we people do associate fun. Well, it's going to be just an amusement park ride the whole time, and it's not. I mean, but there were things that I definitely liked about playing. I think one major thing was the efficacy, and not just, and partly it's because, particularly even now, one reason why I like to play racquetball and other stuff that we do. There's that sense of immediate feedback of what you're doing. So, okay, I've worked on this new skill, this new way of trying to get the ball lower in racquetball, and it worked. You get that immediate feedback and that feeling of efficacy and of having accomplished something or just what you've done has worked. Where in our lives, particularly as intellectuals, the scholarship that we might be doing, our teaching, it's not always clear that we're being effective, right? And there isn't a lot of clear feedback. That's the way I feel oftentimes. I mean, it might take a little while, maybe in a couple of years, you have a student come back and talk to you about the class that they took, and and you get that feeling, but it's not as immediate usually. I mean, there are instances, and that's something that I think about sport. And playing sport, not just sports, but something particular about sports that I think is attractive to play it and to watch it, is that sense of accomplishment and that more immediate feedback of I've worked on it and I can see it in action, that concrete aspect of things, which I always found attractive to it.
I would have to say, now when I play, one of the things I draw most, I would almost put a 1 at the excitement and challenge of competition, because you don't get that sense of competition in many places. And so if I can engage in a game or a softball game or playing hockey down at the ice arena or whatever, and have it be a little bit competitive, where I don't get that physical competitiveness a lot, I feel like I miss that. I miss that part, not having that as an adult. And so I like that competitive part of it.
Absolutely. No, and that's something that I love more now than I think I did as a kid, and the competitive drive and wanting to win, and that feeling of satisfaction when winning, which is interesting as well. I mean, one of the things on the survey was to win, and the role of winning, and the survey report references an older survey from 1989 by Michigan State, where to win didn't even make it into the top 10. The more up-to-date one, it is there, but it's pretty low for the most part. It's not one of the top 5, I think, in the various sports that he surveys. What do you think about that?
I think people are answering what they think they should be answering.
There's always
on
that. On
some level.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I find winning rather important, but it's not the end all by any means. But if it's not there at all, then you lack the competitiveness. Right,
and I think you hit on a number of concerns there that I agree with you on. One is not many are going to answer to win as their number one, even if it is the reason, because they know that that's not what the researcher wants to hear. And that's one of the problems with this so-called science by survey stuff.
Which is why have fun is maybe although I didn't even hesitate to put that at number one either. So right. I don't know.
So that might be part of why to win isn't there as much, but also might be that what is it that's fun? What is it that's exciting? What is it that pushes that higher level of competition? All those other things that are much higher on the list. winning.
Maybe,
or at least part of winning, having the opportunity to win.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I think I want to play to win. I don't really care if I win or not.
That's an interesting distinction, right?
But if I'm not playing to win, then if I'm not playing someone who's not playing to win, it's not as fun,
right?
I'm not so worried about in the end what the score is. I'm really not, but I want to play somebody, and whatever thing I'm playing also wants to win.
Right. Well, I think that's what makes not to keep coming back to this example, but when we do play racquetball, and we're both very competitive, and we're both trying to win. In the end, do we care who wins? Not really. I think we both want to win. We both want to walk out of there having won, and we both play hard to try to win, or at least sometimes just not get beat by a certain amount and things. Pray for pride in a way. But so winning is a part of that. Winning is a part of the fun. It's a part of the excitement. It's part of the competition. One of the other main answers, particularly for these students, many of who are thinking about trying to go on and play in high school and things like that, was to improve skills and learn to play the right way. Well, why do they want to play the right way? Why do they want to improve their skills? Well, at least part of that is because they want to be more competitive. And why?
To win.
To win. So winning is a part of it. I wouldn't want to completely diminish that aspect of it. No, it wouldn't make sense to be the number one answer, I think, because winning in itself probably
then
isn't.
You do have an issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be fun as well. It's got to be an enjoyment aspect of it.
To stay in shape and get exercise, I saw was on there.
Yes.
And
that's my number 5.
That goes up much higher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, as a kid, I had that way down low. As an adult, that gets up high. That's why, so it's...
Yeah, I might have let some of my adult come into my survey there. Interesting, both of us did not even rank my parents asked me to play. My parents were not ones to ever really push me that way. If I wanted to do something, they would let me. I think my mom, I had to get a permission slip to play football. She signed it thinking that, he's not going to make the team. What I didn't tell her was that it was freshman football. Everybody makes the team. So she didn't realize that. I don't know if she would have let me play otherwise. So I think she tried a little parenting ninja something or other, and it didn't quite work. And she was right. I ended up hurting my knee, and I still have torn cartilage in my knee. But yeah, my parents never pushed me to play or asked me to play or really cared one way or the other. They wanted me to be active in things, whether it was sports or arts or other things, whatever drove me. So was it similar to your experience?
I think so. I honestly, I don't know. I know I played Little League. I know I played a lot of sports. I don't remember if I consciously asked, but I'm sure I did.
Yeah. And but we also probably are not representative of those that might go on to play really competitively in high school and college, right?
No.
So, and where they might be more pushed by family in some ways. But
I could have been playing for St. Louis Cardinals if I wanted to, but I decided to become an English professor. That's just the choice I made.
Well, I think it's probably a good choice. Best for the Cardinals, I think. And of course, we didn't. That relates to the point we didn't put down there to earn a college scholarship. That wasn't part of anything that I foresaw. No. Do you think there's anything on this that is not on this survey that might be there for some people?
I guess I didn't look at it in that sense. I'd have to think about that.
Sure. Well, let me, as you're thinking about that, let me also suggest that one of the reasons that I started playing football wasn't because I was like, hey, this looks like it'd be really fun. It was because I saw my best friend at the time wearing the jersey. Yeah. And I saw that jersey, and I saw him walking around on that Friday afternoon wearing the jersey going, damn, I want to wear that. So, and I saw the way other people looked at him, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so there's an aspect of status.
To be popular.
To be popular. Just more broadly than a status, prestige factor, right? And that's sort of what attracted to me at first. I then fell in love with the game, playing it, and started watching professional football more and fell in love with that as well. And so it certainly opened up that door, even though the initial impulse wasn't really anything that's on this list. I mean, it wasn't so much to make friends and so on. But it was certainly a part of it. And then, I guess part of the to be part of a team idea is the camaraderie that one feels. Well, again, I don't want to oversell that because a lot of the guys that I played with were jerks and bullies. I don't know if you had that experience. I remember, I think it was probably JV when we were doing hitting drills against the varsity, and one of the seniors or juniors at the time, big guy on the team, one of the leading defensive players on the team. Not that we were really that good, but he was one of the leaders. We're doing these hitting drills, and you're just pounding into each other. He sucker punches me in the hip as he hits me, solar plexus. So I fall on the ground, right? As anyone would. You get sucker punched in your solar plexus, you're going to fall on the ground. And he stands up and kind of lords over me like he had this monster hit on me. And I mean, of course, after that, I had no respect for the guy. You know, and I wasn't hurt or anything, but it did. That's just a bully. Right. And so I never liked him, and he was a leader on the team, and he kind of set the tone for the team, as you can imagine. So football, there was a lot of aspects of football that I didn't enjoy because of that. I liked some of the players on the team, and that feeling of being able to go through a tough practice together, go through a season together. There's that sort of proverbial in the trenches way that you get close to people when you go through something like that. But I didn't feel that the big family that some people talk about. I know, not that he's one of my favorite players, but the recently retired Ray Lewis mentioned that, and that's one of the things that he's going to miss is that the locker room of men and that brotherhood of men. And now, I never felt that per se, but there still was that feeling of, at least with a few of the guys that on the team that I was friends with, of that closeness. But I felt that more so in the other sports where I had closer friends.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly felt a camaraderie on our cross-country team, but partly that's because a bunch of us friends got together and said, hey, let's do something together, and we all did it cross-country. Right. I mean, one way or the other, but I'm always conflicted when I think about the importance that sport plays or the role that it plays, especially in middle school, high school, because the decision, and maybe I'm only speaking from my time, it may have changed. It may not be like that now, but the decision,
back in the old days,
the decision to play football or not to play football for an American male, at least where I grew up, is a fundamental decision that marks how you're perceived and where you go in high school. I mean, in a big, not that it's a clear delineation, but there really is a pretty big decision, there are social consequences to that, regardless if it should be or not. And I don't think it's still something that gets brought up a lot.
And I think that's still largely the case in a lot of areas. Yeah. I don't think it was the case when I was growing up, where I was growing up in Massachusetts, not exactly a football powerhouse state, and we weren't a very good team. So it wasn't like a thing that was going to automatically make you popular.
Yeah. You don't wear your cross-country jersey or have a girl wear your cross-country jersey, at least at my school. Okay. All right. But they would wear the football jersey. Right. It's a whole different.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really remember that as much. I remember the other teams did wear their jerseys, I think, but football was the biggest. But it wasn't. It wasn't as defining, I think, as the experience you're talking about.
I mean, I say it was defining. It's not that once. I think the further you go into high school, it's not like there was a clear. You don't talk to people and different things. It wasn't that extreme, but it slightly shaped your path.
Right. Oh, sure. But looking back,
what decision doesn't?
What decision doesn't exactly? Yeah. Kind of moving forward, then shifting a couple gears. Professionals, elite players. Do you think that they share the same reasons? I mean, some of these would obviously have to be adjusted. It wouldn't be about a college scholarship, but it might be to earn, your next contract, your next big contract, or earn a high draft place. What do you think the single biggest reason is for a professional to play the sport that they play?
To have fun.
Really?
But that'd be the answer.
That would be the answer they give on the survey?
Whatever good that does predicting, and I don't know.
Right.
It's hard. I mean, I don't buy into it's a business statement.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I hear that come up, I feel like that's usually a rationale for making a tough decision. And like, I don't want to wait out. Okay, it's just a business.
Right.
I have no choice.
They use that as an excuse rather than owning up and taking responsibility for, we had to make a tough call here, and we made a tough call. Whether, cutting somebody or something like that, I suppose. Well, I do think that love of the game, fun, enjoyment aspect of it, that feeling of efficacy and accomplishment is probably a major part of what drives professional athletes as well. I obviously, like anybody, they're driven by multiple reasons and motivations. I think earning money, earning a great deal of money, as many professional athletes can, is no small part. Right, it's something that they're good at and they can earn a lot of money at. So they work to do that. So how much of a role do you think that plays?
I don't know if the money plays a role in the beginning. You don't go out become a professional athlete for the money. It's like saying I'm going to become a best-selling author or I'm going to write because I want to become a best-selling author and make money. No one starts there. A best-selling author goes through all kinds of pays dues for years and years and not making. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if the parallel is exactly right, but if you just say one day I want to make a lot of money, become a professional athlete. If that's your first goal, I would imagine more often than not you don't become a professional athlete. But again, this is all kind of what if.
Conjecture. Yeah, it's neither one of us have gone that route ourselves. So,
but mine was a choice, as I said.
Oh, right, of course. Well, I think one aspect of this might be that for some of these guys, they're great at it. Mm-hmm. They're very good at what they do. They have a lot of talent. They've worked at it to improve that talent, and it's what they do. And I think that's a part of it. Now, even if they kind of find themselves there, it's what they do. I'm good at football. I play football. I play baseball. It's what I do. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in this is what I do. It's not who I am, but it's what I do, and it's what I'm going to do. Even if it's not just the pure love that they might have when they were 8 years old and shagging flies with their dad or something like that.
And even that, I doubt there's ever a pure love of as a child doing that either. I mean, you're doing it because you like kid and catch, but you're also doing it to hang out with your dad. You're doing it because you've seen other boys do it, and you think that's what boys are supposed to do. I mean, and so we romanticize this idea that any kid ever played a sport for the pure love of the game. We
romanticize it. We also oversimplify it in the sense that we think that there's got to be one reason, one motivation that you're doing something, and if there's other motivations there, somehow it's impure. It's when we have lots of reasons for doing things, and I think professional athletes play the sports that they play because they love it. It's what they do. It's what they're great at. They can make a lot of money at it. So
they work hard, and they're extremely lucky.
Yes. No, very lucky.
I mean,
so, well, good.
As anyone is in a career that they love. I mean, anybody who's. So I don't want to say that it's just pure luck, but it's part luck, it's talent, it's hard work, it's.
Well, what's that proverb? Things. It's something like 80% of life is just showing up, right? So
you can't will yourself to become a professional athlete. I mean, it's all these different.
No, you have to have the talent. You have to have the ability, the focus to work hard, and then you have to, be in the right place at the right time. You have to not get injured. And those are important. Have a family or coach or community that provides you with some support to do it. Well, talking about the role of professionals in sport is probably a whole show in itself and the different aspects. So let's move on to the second question of why sports. So we talked about why why we personally have played sports, why we think other people might play sports. And certainly I'd like to invite listeners to email the show or text, not text, I guess, Twitter or Facebook, the show. If you think any of the reasons that we gave were bogus, or you think we're missing one of the major reasons for why people might play sport, I'd love to hear that. And if your comment is clever enough, maybe we'll read it on the air. So so again, that you can find that on Facebook or Twitter and send us a message, or sportsethicist@gmail.com. So now moving on to the second question, why watch? Right, both of us are quite big fans of various sports. Right, you've already got your St. Louis Cardinals plugged in a couple times. I'm a fan of all things Boston sports, and root pretty hard for those teams. And so, what value is in there in watching sport? Because we can see some clear value in playing sport, whether it's physical fitness, and the confidence, the working with others, having fun. What about watching sport? You're doing a different kind of thing there.
What value? Value for?
Well, for you, why do it? Right? I mean, if you're doing something, it's because you're getting something out of it.
The same reason I play it. It's fun.
It's fun. Okay.
Right. That's a big part of it. I guess the other reason is, unlike anything else, you don't know how it's going to end. Yeah.
No, I think that's a huge factor. The sort of creation of artificial uncertainty, right? Because it's uncertainty in other areas of life can be dangerous. It can be harmful. Whereas in sport, it's not. Right. Typically, relatively speaking. I mean, for some of the athletes, it certainly can be. But for the fan, from the fan's perspective, from the spectator's perspective, there's no harm. Right. Nothing really that can come just from watching. Now,
there's depends on how you watch.
Well,
that
relates to the question of how fun is it. I've had many moments where I sit down or talk to my brother and my friends, and why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we get all wrapped up in someone else's success that we can't contribute in any possible way? Right? We don't have an effect on the outcome one way or the other, no matter where I sit on the couch or what shirt I wear. Yet I wear particular shirts or not shirts, like various superstitious rituals that I know have no effect, and yet I still do it. But even more than that, we allow ourselves to get so wrapped up emotionally, so deeply into something that we have no control over, and that's really frightening. So I don't know if you must have had that experience with the Cardinals. I mean, they've let you down, the Steelers. All right, so. Why do you have those moments when you're sort of think, why do I even bother?
I do. I have those moments, which is strange, is more with the professional sports watching than I do. Like, I can watch my kids play, or I can come on campus here. I love watching like the basketball games or the football games or baseball games, and on those, I'm looking for a good game, looking for competition. And I'm not getting. For some reason, I leave getting really worked up for like basically St. Louis Cardinals baseball. That's the one thing that really, and I can't explain that phenomenon other than it was at one point it was a choice, and now it's just, I don't know why that is.
It's fascinating though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think fandom, whether you're talking about sports, but fandom in other areas too, right? Whether it's sci-fi conventions and people dressing up in their Picard outfits, or dressing up like Captain Mal from the great show Firefly. Always got to get a plug-in for that. But again, why do I need to get a plug-in for that? It doesn't matter to me if other people watch Firefly and revel in its greatness. Why does that matter? But it does, not that it does matter, but and maybe that's part of the answer, is that it ultimately really doesn't matter, and so it allows us to express a sort of a partisanship for something that's not threatening.
Yeah, you're speaking two very different viewing ideas too. I go up to Milwaukee, watch the Brewers play the Diamondbacks, and I'm hoping for a close game. Right. If there are playoff implications that affect St. Louis, it's the only way I would get really worked up. Otherwise, I want a close game.
Sure.
Go see that team, and then it becomes something different. I don't know.
Well, I think fandom is. I'm fascinated by fandom, and as I said, in other genres too, not just sport. I think sport is where we see it more publicly across demographics and across the country, whereas there's only a small demographic that's going to sci-fi conventions or the San Diego Comic-Con and things like that, and getting or going to Rocky Horror shows and getting dressed up and things like that. But it's somewhat similar, I think, phenomenon. You don't have any role in it. You don't have effect on it, but people, you put on your jersey or you put on your Batman costume or something like that. And I heard a funny comedian talk about a woman was talking about her boyfriends and men, how crazy they are with sport. And she's like, you put your jersey on, it's like me watching Grey's Anatomy and Scrubs. I don't remember who the comedian was, but it struck me at first. I was like, oh, that's funny. I was like, yeah, but people do that. Not necessarily with Grey's Anatomy, but they do get dressed up for Rocky Horror. They get dressed up to go, Can't Stop the Serenity. They get dressed up as Dr. Horrible and watch Dr. Horrible. And people do that. And I think it's part of the same phenomenon. Now, I think what might be different with sport is that there is the potential for failure. And so go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I think the potential for failure, but I think, I'm going to back up one moment. There's a big difference between going to like a Buffy musical sing-along. Mm-hmm. Everyone there is going to be equally crazy in a good way. I would go to one if there was. But if I go to a Bulls game, there's going to be fans there. There's going to be people that like basketball there, and there's going to be families there, and there's going to be people there for the fact that they were given tickets. I mean, so at any given event, you don't have that concise, focused fan energy. You have fans are one of many different elements within it. So I think there's the fan cultures are very different because you're not isolated.
Right. The Trekkies aren't showing up at the Star Wars convention and booing and stuff.
You don't
like
have a whole stadium full of people without shirts on, painted chests, screaming and crying and what.
It's a much bigger.
So I mean,
it's a bigger mix.
In that there's a much bigger mix.
That's interesting. Well, and one aspect is I don't think some people might be critics of fandom. Sports watching, it's just you're just living vicariously through someone else's achievements and through someone else's activity, and that's true. But I don't think we should short sell that. I'm not sure that that's a reason not to do that. I mean, how much different is that when we go to the opera or we go to see Metallica or whoever you might want to watch to see them perform in a way that is great, that is a wonderful achievement. To a certain degree, you're experiencing that greatness through their greatness. Do you agree with that at all?
I do. But I just don't know if there's an exact parallel. Parallel to a concert,
sure,
or something. Those are like one-time events, and sometimes they're maybe a recurring play or something. But again, they're not like repeated seasons that you can and you don't.
True.
I think they're two very, very different things.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say we can apply equal or different valuing systems rather than saying let's see them as equal. Right.
And I wasn't trying to suggest that they're the same phenomenon or that they are equal, but I think that there is something about being a spectator, whether it's spectating for sport, spectating for opera or ballet, spectating for Metallica or Eminem, spectating for political showdowns.
Right.
I mean, I think people watch MSNBC and Fox News for almost the same reasons that a lot of people watch sports or watch other things. I think there are elements that make it quite different in each one of those domains.
And do fans spectate, and to what extent do they actively engage? And if you're dressing up, even just wearing a hat or a jersey, you're doing more than just watching. You're trying to become part of it.
Yeah, and that's an important part of fandom that might sometimes be lost by the critic, is that sense of community, that sense of whether you're at a game or at a bar, and you're all rooting for the same team or the same type of event, it does bring you together, even if only temporarily. And I mean, I know, and you probably feel this way if I'm walking down the street, because I don't live in Boston anymore, but if I see someone with a Red Sox hat, there's a moment that we share. I don't know who the guy is or person is, and just, hey, what's up? You know, it's just that moment of we're both Red Sox fans. There's something there. And I think, and there's even psychological studies to support the positive effects of community on fandom, and on the negative sides when teams lose, when they have a community of people together to commiserate together. And what's the first thing you do when your team loses? Do you call a friend of yours that's also a fan?
I don't have anybody that I am friends with that's a St. Louis Cardinals.
That's kind of sad. But after the Patriots or the Red Sox or whoever, the Celtics, the Bruins, I'll call one of my friends or my brother, or who we're all pretty hardcore fans, and we bitch and moan and try to dissect it, or just commiserate with each other, or just try to cheer each other up in some way.
I have so many friends that are Cub fans, that I just think to myself, well, at least I'm not.
At least I'm not a Cubs fan.
I had to get one.
We're going to get some hate mail on that. But another aspect, of course, is the seeing of greatness, the seeing of achievement, which we don't get to witness that in other areas. Not that there aren't greatness and achievement in other areas, but we often don't get to witness it. At least even an arts performance, we can see the greatness, but that's because it's something that is practiced, is prepared. They go through the performances beforehand. There's something lacking there in terms of a live performance, someone going for a streak like the Heat, right? Even though I'm not a fan of the Heat, I kind of want to. There's a part of me that wants to see them break the streak. There's a part of me that doesn't. But it's still it's an incredible achievement, and it's something that we get to see unfold. And then even just within a game, to see a great play because of the unscripted nature of sports, I think that's a unique experience, because we don't get to see that in an inventor's office when he or lab when he comes up with something, or she invents something, some new drug, and has that moment. That's not on TV. That's not something that we're in the stands going, woohoo, all right.
And that's so speaks to the different ways that we watch sport. Like a sport you really know, I can watch a baseball game for that and think to myself of these two plays that happened, and that was worth the entire admission of the game to see that. On the other hand, I also keep score. Every game I go to.
Oh, that's great.
But where if I were to watch a basketball game, there, it might be I might have less of a critical eye. I still enjoy the game, but I watch it in a different way, probably because I know less about it.
Yeah. Well, and that there's that element too in terms of the connoisseur, or the more you know about a game. And baseball, I think, is one that's like that. Like, oh, it's boring. It's like, yeah, but when you start to learn more about it, the things that you might have thought were boring are not quite as boring anymore. Now, that may not be that you come to like it. You may still think it's boring after that. But I think if you don't know anything about what's going on, then it looks really silly and bizarre. All right, why are these guys chasing each other around on the ice? But if you understand what's going on in hockey, then it can become much more intricate and rewarding of an experience. Because in part, because you know in part what to expect, but you also you don't know what to expect at the same time. There's that duality there, and it gets resolved.
That's why I love watching soccer with a soccer fan. It makes the experience.
Well, with our friend, our mutual friend Bill, it's quite an experience. It's a great experience. I get to see what I look like when I watch football.
Changes
American
the whole
football.
Element, makes it.
What's up?
It changes the whole experience.
Yes. Well, and then also seeing, okay, so that's what the standard is for a great play in this sport. And so we learn about standards of greatness and achievement and what it takes sometimes to achieve it, and then how to deal with it. All right, we see some people struggle with their achievement, and others revel in it and move to the next level in their achievements. One other thing before moving on, one thing that I think attracts us about sport is that in the ideal sense, it's a true meritocracy. Right? No, it doesn't always function this way, but there's something idealized, I think, about it, that you work hard. It's your talents, your abilities. You've put it to the test. The matches, the games, ideally, again, are supposed to be impartial tests, and they're tested again and again and again for superiority in their given sport. And I think that there's something about the fairness there of that kind of and meritocracy.
Until a bad call or
well, right. That's why I say
bizarre accident.
Right.
You just never know.
Right. You never know. But
That's the element too that makes it.
It's in the idealized sense, and I think that and partly we get so mad about that is because this is supposed to be something that is impartial, that is a fair test of each other's abilities, and that will, when after repeated tests, that the best will rise. Right. That's why we baseball fans prefer a 7-game series rather than a 3-game or a 5-game, because we want to see how does it play out over the course of several games, so that we take the flukiness out, take a bad call out of the equation, and mute those things out, so that the best team rises in theory or in idealized sense. And I think that attracts us because we want to see those people who work hard and have the best ability be the ones that are on the top. What do you think about that?
So does the World Series give us a better marker than the Super Bowl of the better team?
In some ways, yeah. I think football, both in terms of the regular season and the playoffs, is much more prone to flukiness, because one fluke play can determine whether you're in the playoffs or out of the playoffs, and then within the playoffs itself, whether you win or lose, sometimes can be determined on real fluke play. Whereas in baseball, you have a very long season, so the teams that are making the playoffs in the end are by and large the better teams, right? It's very unlikely that you're just going to fluke your way, accidentally get into the playoffs in baseball. And then because of the longer series, you have to be a more consistent player. So I do think that there's a factor in there. Yeah. But then, of course, the excitement of the NFL playoffs, I think, is heightened because so much can come on.
I think it's better in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not like you have a rotation of quarterbacks. You have one quarterback so play every day. You have to do something in baseball because you have a rotation of.
But notice also, oftentimes the commentators will often say, "Oh, well, if you played this game 9 times out of 10, this team would win, or if 8 times out of 10, this team would win." Or
well, I mean, that's any kind of tournament too. You look at tennis, golf.
All right. Well, we got a little under 10 minutes or so to talk for our last section here, which is probably most relevant in some ways to our professional lives, which is why study sport. All right, we both teach classes in sport. I teach a sports ethics, also hopefully soon a philosophy of sport. We're organizing a conference on April 19th here on the Rockford College campus, Sports Studies Symposium. I'll talk a little bit about that in future shows as well. So we're very interested in the study of sport. And so, Mike, what do you teach?
I've done some sections of sports rhetoric.
So why don't you say a little bit about that and why you teach that?
Well, it's why do I teach it?
Yeah.
Because I like...
Because I like to. It's fun.
Yeah, because I like to. It's fun.
Fun can't be every answer.
It is when it comes to... No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great sports literature out there. And I think, examining sports from a rhetorical perspective, I have found fascinating. And I realized...
Maybe you could say a little bit, what does that mean to say that you analyze sport from a rhetorical fashion, in a rhetorical fashion, or the rhetoric of sport? Give me maybe a couple examples, or what do you mean by that?
Well, we can look at sports writing and ask ourselves, what is the narrative? How is it composed? Why is it composed in that way? So we read a lot of sports literature. I try to cover it over the century, but also I do an extensive section on Muhammad Ali, and we look at not only the sports writing about him, but we can look at his own speeches that he gives in press conferences, and what sort of arguments, and how does he kind of create his persona, and then look at the actual matches too. Mm-hmm. And do that space. And there's also the rhetoric of space. I mean, what sort of arguments do different baseball complexes make based upon how they're organized? So it combines visual and verbal rhetoric in really interesting ways, which is how I taught the class in the first place, because I was teaching visual rhetoric, and I found so many of my examples were connecting to sports. And so I thought, well, let me try just allow all those examples and then combine those elements.
And how the students respond to the course? They find it exciting or more interesting maybe than some other subjects, or about the same? Or
about the same. I've had just as the same response to that as I have to my visual rhetoric as I did to my when I did once early on in social media.
Okay,
but yeah, fairly similar.
Because one of the things about my sports ethics class that I like is the students do to some degree come in a little bit more enthusiastic about the subject, in part because they think they know what it's going to be about. Right? They soon discover, it's not just about talking about sport every day. I mean, we do talk about sport, but we talk about it through a particular lens, thinking about the ethical issues that are raised there, and so it's not quite the same that maybe what they expected. But they come with a body of knowledge. Sometimes they know about the specifics of the games because many of my students are student athletes themselves. They come with specific knowledge about the games that they play that I don't have. So I always feel like I learned something about it. So I provide the ethics, they provide the sports, and together it's a good union, I guess. So they like sport, they come to it, although there's always one or two students in the class that are taking it and they don't like sport or they don't have any experience with sport. And it's always very interesting to see their responses. And they're a nice control subject for the class because I think, talking about some issues, if we all played sports or we all fans of sport, we might assume certain kinds of answers that the non-fan might say, well, no, I don't know if that's quite right.
And I'm very conscious of creating my curriculum to not be for fans of sport in that sense. I mean, we kind of try to get from the same spot. But
yeah. But then more generally, I mean, what about the sports studies or the study of sport? Do you think that that's an important domain to study or important area to study?
I do. I think so. I haven't done much in it, to be honest. I did a conference presentation last year based in part on a lot of the stuff I did with Muhammad Ali and Joe DiMaggio and my sports rhetoric and kind of some of those ideas and crafted into a paper. So that's kind of the breadth of my specific scholarship around sports.
Right.
But I enjoyed it. And it's sitting in on the other panels that did that. There's a lot of interesting material out there.
And why do you think it might be important? Why do you think it might be an interesting area of study?
I'm going to give a completely wishy-washy answer.
Sure.
It's important just as it is important to study all the different fields in which we engage in the humanities, which I know. I mean,
that is a little wishy-washy, but I think what's
culture. I come from I really like cultural studies in general, cultural studies, pop culture studies, and to me this is a normal connection to that concept.
And I think that's the presupposition there is that this is just another important domain of human activity that's open to study. Whether and there's all sorts of human activities that are open that ought to be open to study and that we can learn from. And I think that's as valid answer as another. One of the things that I think makes sport a really interesting thing to study is its universality. It's so widespread, right? Both in time, you go back, not just, we think, the ancient Greeks, per se, with the Olympics and so on. But many of the cultures had various kinds of sports. And as far as we know, most had something that looked like sports. And then, of course, across cultures today, almost every culture we know of today has some sort of sport. And we have international sports now with things like the World Cups and the Olympics. And so I think its universality gives us an insight into human culture and society that we might not have in some other pop culture areas, which might be more domain specific, more regional, or more time specific. I think the study of sport gives us some access to that universal sense of what it is to be a human being, because I think so much of our human lives are wrapped up in sport, and so we can see our human lives and human culture, how we interact with each other, how we interact with institutions, how institutions interact with us through sport as an artificial microcosm of life. So that's pretty heady stuff, but well, maybe not that heady. I don't know. It sounds heady.
I started to daydream as you were speaking, not in a good way, in the sense you're talking about the how it's been around forever, and I was thinking back to my undergraduate experience, traveling to Greece for a month, taking a class, and being in Olympus and being on the field where they ran the original Olympics, and having that sense of, wow, they were still competing in those events way back then. Right. And several of the students stripping naked and running the field just like they did. Cool. And it was cold, and I didn't have the guts to do that particular thing. But, that's why I went silent. I was actually back in that moment.
Well, that's great. All right. Well, I had a moment of efficacy then in seeing that. Well, great. Well, thanks for joining me, Mike.
You're welcome, Shawn.
And thank you for joining us for this hour. I hope you found it engaging and enlightening as I did. This is the Sports Ethicist Show. You can find us on sportsethicist.com as well as on Facebook and Twitter.